AI really take off in the physical security space is um, it has more to do with creating analytics than it does identifying the situation. The AI is, as far as like, building out some of these, the capability of identifying, somebody wearing a red hat, for example, or somebody that's not wearing their, like in a manufacturing environment, for example. One of the newer analytics is being able to detect whether somebody's wearing their helmet or not, and getting an alert for that. So, or a red vest.
That was a good one for safety reasons and prevention.
Absolutely.
Today, we're talking about something every IT leader and every customer worries about, whether they say it out loud or not. How do you keep people safe and systems running without drowning in complexity and cost? Our guest is Kyce Poya, founder and president of Apex IT and Security out of Santa Monica. Kyce has been over a decade selling IT and physical software solutions for heavyweights like Cisco, HP, Salesforce, Meraki, where I met him before launching Apex to do things differently. A smaller team, deeper relationships, and solutions that are actually intuitive to run.
Apex focuses on campus security, computer networking, cybersecurity, fleet operations, and office solutions, all built around the idea of fast response and clear ROI instead of buzzword bingo. Today, we're going to get into what he's seeing on the ground with the clients that he works with, where people overspend or undersecure, and how you simplify your environment without starting from scratch. Today, we're getting into a topic that honestly every IT leader worries about. How do you keep your people safe and systems running without drowning in complexity, vendor noise, and budget pressure? So grab a coffee or a bourbon, pull up a chair in the garage, and let's get into it with Kyce from Apex IT and Security. Welcome, Kyce, to the garage. Take us back a bit. How did you first get into IT and security?
It's a good question. I think just personally, I was always an athletic kid, pretty active, but also was pretty into computers as well. Was definitely playing video games at a young age, had some interest at a younger age for sure. Still do play a little video games, to be totally honest with you. But yeah, so 5-time Elden Lord, actually, if you're familiar with the game. But
Oh,
anyways, it's an achievement. But yeah, so I ended up, went to high school, graduated UC Davis, grew up in Northern California, and had access to, an amazing culture of San Francisco. And so at that time, it was when I had moved to San Francisco, it was post .com bust, and technology was really starting to resurge quite a bit. So, I had initially had been, working in sales and construction sales really, and then kind of started cutting my teeth into the technology world primarily through sales.
Well, I met you several years ago when you were at Meraki, and I'll say it's such an amazing group of individuals there. I just haven't met a group of people that intelligent and personable and representing technology in a way it's meant to be used.
Sure.
You also spent time at like Cisco and HP and Salesforce. What was the moment you said I could serve customers better if I build something on my own?
So I think for me, there was a common comment that was given to me from managers, which was, Kais, this isn't your company. So we appreciate, your ideas and influence, but, this is just how things are done. And um, I think, there was a number of companies. I think for when I was at Meraki, really, I learned so much. And that was one of the most impactful 7 years for me, is starting at an amazing company that were doing so many things the right way and in such a positive direction, and feeling like I was part of something new and changing things, to kind of, joining larger organizations and, saying like, well, hey, this isn't the way that, I think is conducive because I've experienced a different way of doing business that was really impactful. But then also part of that also comes down to just the comment I made before, where managers were definitely making comments as far as, follow protocol and things of that nature. So really, I think the biggest item for me was just how to approach customers. I'd been in situations where I'm very much a first things first type of person, where if there's an account, if I walk into an account or into a customer situation where things aren't working out and there's frustrations, and I didn't, I was always focused on solving that problem first and making sure that that customer was happy with the experience, happy with the product before maybe encouraging, cross selling a different product line or something along those lines. And so I think just over the course of my career, wanted to do things my own way in what I felt was the right way to approach business. And, I think that was kind of the point for me where I realized I didn't have that freedom to walk through business and to approach business the way I wanted to unless I really started my own.
I love that. That kind of speaks down to core and mission and essentially removing that obstacle to then, I mean, it's kind of sounds cliche, but be the best that you can be and deliver the best result without having well, this is how it's done kind of mentality standing in your way. I love that. If you were to describe Apex to a new customer, what's your one liner pitch, if you got one? I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Yeah, no, I think the one line pitch is, our strength in our bread and butter is really edge networking. So securing and simplifying, the things that you use around you, the technology you use around you. And, I don't know, that would probably be my one sentence if I had one sentence.
What are those things that you can offer some of these warehouses and other companies that a larger business like a Cisco or an HPE, someone like that comes in and what do you have? What are you offering there that can help them directly when
Sure.
understanding and achieving and investing in security?
Sure. No, absolutely. So when it comes to our company, it's really about a big part of it is the partnerships. So choosing the right technologies to lead with. So, and to clarify, we don't create or manufacture our own technology. So we're a installer and distributor for various technologies. When it comes to products on the physical security side, we have a strong partnership with Verkada. And a lot of that partnership was founded, that relationship was founded from a previous organization, Meraki, where Hans Robertson was one of the founders of and eventually started Verkada. So when it comes to physical security, a lot of the help that we offer really comes from, that strategic partnership and other strategic partnerships that we've chosen to bring on board with Verkada. So for Verkada and physical security specifically, I think prior to their foundation, physical security was really a distributed and siloed technology set. I actually used to work for a company called N3N where we would create basically a software overlay connecting a lot security cameras, sensors, access control to create a similar environment to what Verkada offers out of the box. So there's quite a lot of advantage to that. There's the technologies work together as an ecosystem, similar to the way it did at Meraki, where, for example, if you have and a common example is called tailgating. So if you have access control and somebody fobs to get into the building and then a second person follows through, you can catch that with a camera and then get an alert. And that's a unique situation or one example of why having a complete ecosystem is a much more secure approach, but also a more intuitive way of going about things. So simplification, things of that nature.
I was just going to interject real quick.
Sure.
In terms of tailgating, I've had that happen to me where I had a buddy drive 3 hours to come and visit me one time, tailgated into the apartment complex, and then got me in the face with the Nerf dart gun. And then a couple years later, returned the favor, I tailgated into their apartment complex, not with a Nerf dart gun, but I dropped off all the ingredients they needed for a chicken Caesar salad. I told them I was going to deliver them the salad, didn't knock on the door or anything, left on the front door and left. So the physical security piece is ringing pretty close to home.
So do you you have the partnership so you can resell the equipment. Do you also have employees or contractors who help install it, or how do you handle that? Do you handle the installation too, or mainly just the probably the best way of purchasing or obtaining and just the right solution?
Yeah, we do installation as well. So, I guess initially when I started this business, we were thinking about, or I was thinking about maybe creating something similar to like a CDW, but on a smaller scale.
Hmm.
I have a lot of great relationships with friends and that I've worked with previously. And, a lot of those friends are, maybe started families and they're looking to maybe work on their own time. So I saw that as a good opportunity to have a good network of potential salespeople to join in that effort. What I started noticing is there was just such a need for physical installation, such a high need for it, and to find good installers to accomplish these tasks. So yeah, I actually do have my own install team, and we do pretty complicated deployments. So we've done distribution centers with 50-foot ceilings, large outdoor complex environments. So yeah, it's been interesting to be on this side of the fence because previously I was just working for the manufacturers, and you're a bit disconnected working from behind a computer all day and on the phone and working virtually to actually being in an environment and seeing you know execution from start to finish
Right,
of
right.
actually hanging up the access points, hanging up the security cameras. So it's definitely been interesting, and I have a bigger appreciation for the partners that I previously worked with that were accomplishing that goal at the time. So
So if I'm an IT manager at a mid-sized org or something, what are the three questions I should ask my current vendors about my security stance? And let's say it's a retail store. Let's say I'm a retail store, and I've
sure.
got security as far as both video, and I've got security to access my website, my email, and all those edge areas of communications and vulnerabilities. What are some of the things you'd have me consider first?
Sure. I think for retail, one of the big concerns is loss prevention. Visibility is huge, and having security cameras that are accurate that can run analytics and detect any potential theft threat is a big deal. So I would say, um, some of the technologies that come with security cameras or facial recognition, for example, which is, allowable in most of all the states in the United States, in the US. And it's a very, very helpful analytic that can help prevent repeat offenses. So for example, if you do have footage of somebody that maybe had stolen from one of your stores previously, if that person returns to that same store or another store, being able to recognize that person, get an alert when that person enters the store is a huge advantage and is something that Verkada currently offers. And that is something that I'm using for one of my customers. I do have a customer that has over 300 locations it's a retail customer, over 300 locations that are currently deploying Verkada systems at each location. And that's one of the key features for retail. Also, having analytics with regards to missing items. So, another key feature that Verkada does offer is, and again, this ties into theft and loss prevention area, is having a ability to quickly find footage. So, again, with Verkada, it's the entire, basically the entire screen, the entire lens is usable and researchable. So an example of that is, if you do have an item that goes missing in the store, you can easily highlight it on your Verkada system and then pull up all the events where there's been activity on that in that part of the environment and part of the store. So you could literally a loss prevention person can take what would have normally been, maybe anywhere from like a couple hours to 8 hours trying to find an event where maybe somebody lifted something or took something, and then you go basically scale that out into like 15 different clips or 20 different clips and see where the actual theft had taken place.
Yeah, are you seeing AI come into play at all with this? Like, taking that footage and, taking abnormal situations and maybe piecing them together for a security team. Are you seeing things like that happening?
Where we're seeing AI really take off in the physical security space is, um, it has more to do with creating analytics than it does identifying the situation. What the AI is, as far as like, building out some of these, the capability of identifying, somebody wearing a red hat, for example, or somebody that's not wearing their, like in a manufacturing environment, for example. One of the newer analytics is being able to detect whether somebody's wearing their helmet or not, and getting an alert for that. So, or a red vest.
That was a good one for safety reasons and prevention and things like that.
Absolutely, yeah. It really we're seeing a huge acceleration when it comes to some of these analytics, 'cause it is a pretty manual process for developers to go through. And, obviously with given the right rails and direction, AI has really, picked that up. So we're seeing some really amazing things, really exciting things when it comes to video capability and what physical security can accomplish in real life situations.
So, what other changes are you seeing in the security space? So, I'm seeing a lot of things on security cameras, access control. We've talked about the warehousing and cameras, things like that. What about fleet operations? Were you working in that area? Like, is that vehicle management or traffic management as far as logistics?
Yeah, so again, I had that amazing Meraki fraternity that I was a part of.
Yeah.
But Samsara is another partnership that we have, and they create some amazing products that cover a multitude of different things. But part of that is video as well, where you have dash cams that are obviously facing in front of vehicles in case of accidents, but also cameras coming inward to see at the point of impact, or leading up to it, what is the driver doing? So there's some safety and security aspects there, but also when it comes to production and quality of product. So some example additional features that Samsara offers is sensors, environmental sensors. If it's a produce based delivery, ensuring that those environments are kept at the appropriate temperatures. Also, just vehicle health as well is another example. So, getting an accurate read on how the drivers are performing, how aggressively they're driving, whether they're creating too much wear and tear. I have a company that a logistics company that offers a reward system based off of some of these findings as well. So, essentially the safest and the kindest to the vehicle driver gets an award for the month, something along those lines. So it saves from a financial benefit of reducing wear and tear in the vehicles, gas, the list goes on.
So, do you have any plans or thoughts of maybe even running I don't know, an MSP or something else? What's that next layer or next area to conquer, in this space?
It's hard to say. So I started this business a little over 3 years ago, and I think I had a lot of ideas of where things were going to go and what I wanted to do. And then things ended up shifting directions, not massively, but just in a way where I just kind of followed, you know, the natural path of, you know, where revenue streams were coming in from. So if I had an idea of like where things are going to be in another 3 years, it would be continuing down the same path that I'm going down, but just slowly adopting more technologies, mainly just products that, you know, I feel are going to be a good fit for our offering and our customer base, as well as that fit the total methodology, which is, primarily cloud-based intuitive solutions that offer a holistic approach.
What's one mind shift you wish more leaders had about security?
I
Besides
think it's maybe
besides it ain't happening to me, it won't happen to me.
so. When you say that, do you mean like leaders of businesses that are looking at security, or people in the security industry that are selling
I would
security products?
I would scope it as leaders looking at security solutions.
Yeah. Yeah. Brian, I think that's a good example. I mean, I recently had personally a security incident, and that could have been potential, prevented. And it is one of those situations where, people usually wait until something happens instead of being proactive. And you know, when I'm approaching these conversations, I tend to find that, people don't realize how much additional benefit these security products can bring outside of just, your everyday break-in or burglary or something along those lines. So, there's a ton of, return on investment beyond, what people are realize at the time. And so, when we start having these conversations, people just aren't aware, like, they think security, they think like an ADT or, just like a basic alarm system. It's the industry's changed dramatically. And vision just alone offers so much more, in ways that can actually recuperate those funds, so they aren't a complete sunken cost in their mind because perhaps they're in the mindset of, nothing's happened. Why do we need this?
Hmm.
There are more benefits. And then also, you don't want to wait till that event does happen because it hurts.
Yeah, it's sort of like we get into like asset inventory a lot and talk about that and securing our servers and things like that. And if you don't know what you have, you can't protect it, right? So with cameras, sensors, whether they be temperature controls, fire, gas, security, all those sort of things. Then also that edge, as far as identifying traffic that comes through that's abnormal. I mean, to me, it's protecting your house. It's protecting your business, and everyone should be interested in it just to do the basics. There's so many
Hmm.
things that are out of your control, and these things are simple and really within your control. If a stupid thing happens to you, that's sad.
Right.
Some of these things are so far fetched and beyond your control. People can understand it. And those are always hitting you too. But I'd hate to get, not worry about anything. And I get hit by, just the normal to the thief or something I could have protected with a lock, a security camera, something like that. So, uh, yeah, yeah, I get it. Anything else, Steele?
So it's incredibly exciting to me that you own your own business. And I would ask, what is a lesson that you've learned as a founder? Maybe your top two or three takeaways? Because that experience um, going into the driver's seat and you are leading and those responsibilities on your shoulder, I imagine you've cut your teeth. You've got some lessons to share on that.
I've definitely cut my teeth if you can't tell. So,
I
um,
promise you that was by accident. That was not
yeah,
intentional.
yeah. This isn't the a U.S. Olympic hockey team celebration. No, I mean you can see the surfboard in the background here. I surf and I had a surfing accident, and so it's a story in its own. But yeah, as far as I think the biggest takeaway was it was harder than I thought, but it also wasn't as hard as I thought at the same time. And I don't think you really have an I came into starting this business having a good amount of product knowledge and an idea of how I wanted to approach things and experience, which was all helpful in setting up this organization and getting a direction going. But I think that, I was in a position where I was ready to take some risk and, be self-reliant. And it kind of felt like I needed to. I was very much at a point in my career where I couldn't really see myself doing something else, if that if that makes sense. I was pretty frustrated. And, lo and behold, things worked out extremely well. So, I mean, the businesses, I mean, we had a modest first year, doubled and then quadrupled, and things are really starting to take off. Yeah, I don't know if I can point to one specific, challenge that really took me off guard. It's just more like kind of taking your lumps along the way, but as long as, you feel like this is the direction and this is what you need to do, it's just part of the process.
I love that you called out this is something that you felt that you had to do. And so it was essentially a driving force pulling you towards that. And I love to hear about the success there.
Yeah. Thanks.
If just one more for you.
Sure.
If you were giving advice to the younger version of you that might just be getting into IT sales or IT security, and they were asking for advice, what advice would you give them, or maybe some first steps for them?
I would say it's a good question. Trying to think of my 22-year-old self and what was going on in that brain, crazy brain. Yeah, I would say be patient and take your time. I think that, yeah, be patient, take your time, and things will turn out because I was very ambitious, I would say more so than I am today. I wouldn't say blindly ambitious, but I think I made mistakes, whether that was just like pure competitiveness and I think in order to be successful in this sort of industry, you know, it's important to learn your lessons, learn your products, listen to everybody around you. And I think if I would have been a little bit, maybe taken things a little bit in stride, a little bit more in stride, then I think, you know, I would have maybe had a little bit more trajectory. But, needless to say, I think at the same time, I am where I am today because of, the way I did things.
Right.
So,
Hindsight
maybe
is
I, maybe,
2020.
maybe I would say nothing at all. Just let it happen again.
That's awesome. I love that.
Well, thanks, Kyce, for joining us and representing Apex IT and security and walking us through what your company can do and do for its clients and how it's designed for real people, not just spec sheets. I'll drop some links to Apex IT and security in our show notes so people can check them out, check out your solutions. For the Wired Garage, I'm Pops. Take care of your people, keep your networks tight, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Cheers.